On our big interview, we're focusing on the two-port retirement system that is now officially in place. As of yesterday, if you are a retirement fund member in financial need, you can access a portion of your savings to pay for emergencies or unforeseen expenses from your savings component, and then the balance is preserved until retirement. So this new retirement system has that savings and a retirement pot. The savings pot will hold 1/3 of all retirement savings, and that's what will be accessible before retirement age. The retirement pot will hold the remaining 2/3 of retirement savings and will only be accessible upon retirement. And this is happening, remember, after years of pressure from the trade union movement, who have been saying that this system will help alleviate hardships for their members. But there are a number of concerns that their members themselves have around how this system will be administered and also around the tax implications for the withdrawals. Let's bring in Alvinah Thela, who is the Chief Director for Development Sector at National Treasury. Alvinah, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and your 702 listeners.
So,
Thanks for having me.
Yesterday was implementation day. Are retirement fund administrators ready?
Yes, Clement, as far as I know, they are ready. They have been waiting for the two laws which have now been promulgated, the Revenue Laws Amendment Act, as well as the Pension Funds Amendment Act, which are now law.
So there was a deadline for the fund administrators to submit the rule amendments to the Financial Services Conduct Authority by the 15th of July this year in order to give effect to the system. If I remember correctly, failure to meet the deadline would mean that no savings withdrawals claims can be paid from the fund. Have they met the deadline, or are there other administrators that haven't?
Yes, there are other administrators and funds actually that are still submitting their rules to the Financial Sector Conduct Authority.
So what, were they given the grace period? An extension of sorts?
Yes, they have been given, because they can't implement the system until their rules have been amended. So I think as of Friday, the Financial Sector Conduct Authority had approved 687 rule amendments. They have queried 151. So the 151 means the funds have submitted, but there are gaps in their rules, that have been submitted for approval by the FSCA.
Okay.
So those funds need to correct and then send those rules back.
What are the consequences for that, Alvinah? I mean, they can't obviously continue with the thorough implementation as intended until those rule amendments have been submitted. Does it mean that those fund administrators, then their members, cannot, as of yesterday, then claim from the savings pot until they've got their systems in place?
Yes, that is essentially correct. So until the funds have amended their rules, which the FSCA has registered and approved, which requires the funds to then amend their systems, then members are not able to make withdrawals. Members can still send through their claims withdrawal processes, but those will not be processed. They can still send through their forms to say, I would like to withdraw, but they are not able to process. The fund is not able, or the administrator is not able to process that withdrawal until they have finalized their internal controls.
All right. So what does the legislation say about how much people can access?
So in terms of the legislation, there is no withdrawal amount, but because the two pots that you spoke to, the savings pot and the retirement pot, are new as of yesterday. Essentially, there is nothing in those pots, but we have allowed access to what a member has accumulated prior to the implementation date, which is what we call the vested pot. So what a member has accumulated as at end of August, 31st on Saturday, a member can tap into that pot or that accumulated pension savings. 10% up to 30,000, whichever is lower, can be transferred from that pot into the savings pot so that the savings pot doesn't start from zero. The member can then withdraw what's in there. However, going forward, the savings pot is topped up, as you mentioned earlier, with the 1/3 of the member's total contribution. Then there won't be any limit. Whatever a member has accumulated in the coming years can be taken without any limitations to the amount. Thanks.
What are the tax implications and admin costs? I mean, you don't want people to withdraw money they desperately need only to have almost half of it taken to SARS. I mean, I saw some trade unions are calling this a tax grab disguised as help. They argue that government is just trying to increase tax revenue to save itself against its debt.
Yes, unfortunately, none of us can run away from tax. So if I can start with how the retirement system works. As we contribute into our pensions, there is no tax. When the money grows in the pension savings, there is no tax. So there are no capital gains taxes. However, when you exit, tax is paid. So we use what you call an exempt, contributions exempt, gross is exempt, and then the exits, the withdrawals are taxed, an EET system. So with any exit from the pension savings, whether it's resignation, death, or retirement, there is a tax when money leaves the system. Because we have now changed the pension system to allow for frequent withdrawals. Remember, a pension savings is a long-term arrangement. Now we are allowing more frequent withdrawals, although it's once a year, not less than 2,000, but it's more frequent than it would have been in the current system.
Okay.
That is seen. SARS sees that as an income, as part of your gross income. Hence, the taxation at an individual's marginal tax rate. So the lower an individual, a member's income is, the lower the tax. The higher your income is, the higher the tax rate. It's similar to your tax, to your salary.
Yeah.
If you earn little or if you earn below the cap, there is no tax.
Yeah.
But the more you earn, the higher the tax.
COSATU has been pleading for some taxation relief of sorts, especially for those low-income workers. I saw the Deputy Minister of Finance, David Masondo, said that Treasury was willing to continue with engagements with the unions on this. I mean, is that a possibility of things changing to provide extra relief for low-income earners?
So whether things will change in terms of the tax arrangement, I can't commit to that. Because firstly, I'm not a tax practitioner and I'm not a tax expert. However, we are willing to have engagements with labor unions and also hear the public. So our intention now is what you mentioned to the labor unions is let's see how the two-pot system fares. Let's have it implemented and then later have an assessment of where further gaps are, where further arrangements or engagements are required. And then if there is a need, we could make further amendments. But at this stage, we just need to see this two-part system taking ground and then negotiate further at a later stage.
All right. Alvinah Thela, Chief Director for the Development Sector at National Treasury, thanks for making time for us. And I wonder how we're going to maintain the integrity and sustainability of retirement funds. I mean, South Africans are already underprepared for retirement, so you want to do this in a way that doesn't compromise that further. But also, you don't want people to have access to this money unless they really need it. Right? This is not for good times. So how do we get fund members not to see these withdrawals as a spending spree, because that would defeat the purpose for which this two-pot system was created for, wouldn't it?
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions,
your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.